Well, when it comes to the pay gap between men and women, not even education can level that playing field. Today is Equal Pay Day, and what we know is that pay is not equal. Even though women make up more than half of college-educated workers, even though women are participating in the labor force at record rates. A new Census Bureau report that took a look at men and women with the same education and found a substantial gap at every single level. Women still make just 71 cents on the dollar when compared to men, and that disparity grows even more when you are talking about women of color. Let's welcome to this discussion the hosts of the Invisible Women podcast and the founders of the Equal Balance Movement. We've got two amazing Simmons sisters with us, Monica Simmons and Melody Simmons-Hudson. Thank you so much for being in here.
Thank you for having us.
So let's talk about this.
Yes.
Let's talk about the problem. It is a problem. We know it's a problem. Right. Is it getting any better? What's the breadth of the problem right now that we know?
Absolutely. So the problem is not getting any better. The pay gap is still there. What we want to mention is there are tools that can be used, and so we're also authors of a book, Invisible Women. We're addressing the pay gap as well as the intersection between race and pay, and so
it's all interconnected.
It's all intertwined. Absolutely.
But I guess the question is, we've identified it.
Right.
We've identified the gap. We're saying this is a problem. There's been work to be done. We have women in the workforce. What is the barrier that is stopping from women getting paid equally to their male counterparts?
There's a few barriers that are happening there. I think access to resources affect women at times. I think we know that women sometimes lack sponsorship in the workplace. And so men oftentimes advocate for other men, right, to get into positions, get higher pay. A lot of times women don't have that access, and we oftentimes look at women as making less than because we don't feel that they're on an equal playing field.
I saw numbers that said younger women, there's less of a disparity as they come into the workforce. Yes. Women who are of childbearing age,
yes.
It starts to grow again as the perception maybe changes. And certainly women of color, I think the stat I said, black women that you guys had on your website, making 58% to the dollar.
Correct. That's correct.
58 cents.
That is correct.
In terms of, are we talking about this enough? Right? We're having discussions, but is it only women having discussions going, this is terrible, I can't believe it?
Right,
or is enough happening? Is it being prioritized enough?
That's right. We're not talking about it enough. And so that's why I mentioned earlier there is a California Equal Pay Act. And so this prohibits any employer from paying an employee less than their male counterpart. So we need to make sure as women we're exercising these laws and these acts, because if we don't speak up, no one's going to advocate for us. And so having these conversations, that's why we have a podcast, we have the book, we also did a film. I mean, we did a Black Women Thrive Summit, so we're constantly talking about this issue, but we need for women to advocate for themselves because we're not always there. You're not going to be always able to pick up a book.
So what would you say people should do?
Advocate for yourself. So one thing that I want to touch on is SB 1162 passed in 2023, and what it requires companies that have 15 or more employees to provide better transparency around pay data. A lot of times I think for women, we don't know what we don't know. So when I go in to apply for a specific position, if I don't know where I should be at the starting point, whatever they offer me, I may not come back and counter offer, right? But when we have networks like Monica and I talk about, you're able to have those discussions with other women and have it build allyship, right? And that's what women need. We need to continue to network, share that information. As we know, talking about pay has been taboo in the workforce since forever. So when we go into the position, women rarely talk about it because a lot of times the competition kicks in. I don't want to tell you.
And you don't want to make it a thing.
Exactly.
Know your rights, educate, advocate.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And another thing I want to mention, Claudine, is that for women, we can't just ask for men to be allies. We have to be allies for each other. Because when we stick together and when we talk about these things, having conversation, it empowers another woman to say, you know what, I'm going to look at my pay and I think I'm going to talk to HR.
I like it. All right. Well, I appreciate the work you guys are doing to advance that conversation. I appreciate you guys coming in here. I know you guys are very, very busy.
Yes.
Excited for your projects ahead.
Thank you so much.
And happy Women's History Month.
Yes.
Happy Women's History Month. Let's make history. Alex.
Thank you, all three of you. Appreciate the conversation.
240 million